Hi, Dr. Abbey. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you. I want to ask you a series of questions. Can you please state your name and the title of your book?
Hi, sir. Nice to meet you. My name is Dr. Henrietta Abbey, and my book is entitled Memoir.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your book. You know, you look amazing today, so I'm excited to do this interview with you.
Thank you.
Now, talking about your book, Memoir Memes, I love the name. How many books have you written?
So far, I've written several books, but it's only 3 that is out there now. And every year, I would love to release 2 books each year.
Well, that's exciting. Out of those books that you have published right now, which one is your favorite?
My favorite is Memoir.
Oh man, we really got to read that Memoir Memes. Now,
Yeah.
what is the significance of the title?
Well, memoir is autobiography, and memes is more about experience with the environment or culture or community. So I did a lot of research about it, and I thought I didn't want to use autobiography, and I thought Americans are more familiar with memoir. And when you do a lot of search, you will get results with memoir. And the memes is about my experience, my culture, all that I've experienced in life. I just wanted to, explain it with these 2 ways.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you also share with us a snippet that isn't in the blurb or excerpt?
Well, it's all about my life history, how I grew up as a child. It was fresh in my mind, all the time when I was young. And then my brothers would be going to school, and I would stand by the gate, grandfather's house, and I'll be crying because I wouldn't go to school with them. They would leave me lonely. And I'll say, go to grandma, go to grandma, go to mama. And then, she will quieten me down. And I remember we playing sometimes with different kinds of beads, telling folk stories. And then, we having a nice time at grandma's place. And I remember when I went missing, in my grandma's house. She wasn't there. I couldn't get back home. It was late at night, and I had to sleep in the school. Fortunately for me, the headmaster lives in the school. So he was able to take me for the night, and my mom and my grandfather were all looking for me throughout the night until they came to the school. So these were all fresh in my mind, and I thought that, why don't I put it on paper, and that led me to writing all about my history.
Wow. Well, I love it. There's already a lot of characters in your book. Now, out of those characters that you talked about, because it's your life story, is there a special character that holds a special place in your heart?
Yeah. What holds my heart is the fact that when I told my schoolmate, when we were preparing for the common entrance to go into secondary school, she was worried because she had good grades. She was the highest in the school, but she couldn't know how she was going to pay for her tuition. And she asked me, and I said, my mom works in the bank. And so the bank has decided to give scholarship to each child, not each child, to one child per family. And my mom thought about it, and she said, I will take it and not my brothers, even though I was the youngest. and she was worried how she was going to make it, how, and her dad was dead, and she didn't know how she was going to pay for her tuition. And I said, does your mom work? Do you know somebody who can get you scholarship? He said, wait a minute. My dad used to work for cocoa farms. I'm going to ask my mom about it. And then later on, she came back and said, my mom said the cocoa farm industry will pay for my tuition. It was like a joy to me because we were going to the same school and we've been buddies for so long in school. So when she said that, I was so relieved. Even when we went to school, we dressed the same outfit, we dressed the same shoes, and it was very, very exciting, that I was able to give an advice or something that brought um, about her future, and she being able to go to school because they can afford to pay for her tuition. And I really like that. I wanted it in the book because maybe somebody will want to go to school and may not know how to afford it, maybe a grant, maybe a scholarship. And even here in New York, now a lot of students can go to college without paying for tuition, So anything that will help somebody make it, I feel like it's something that it should come out for people to know.
Wow, that's a great story. And I'm glad you were able to help someone out. Can you tell us what was the inspiration for the story of Memoir memes?
Um, I was inspired by a writer. His name is Kadi, not his real name, that is his nickname. He once came to the secondary school that I went to, and he was talking about the fact that he does a lot of walking. He walks all over Ghana, and just to get attraction, to get people to read his books. And I was like, I would want to write a book one day. And he was telling about you can write your own stories and stuff like that. I said, I would want to do that. So after that, I started writing in my diaries every day what I do, things that come to mind, my experience with people. I started writing journals and stuff like that. And when it came to the time when I found out that I was getting a divorce, I didn't know where I was going. I said that I would like to be productive. Life is not all about brokenness, So I decided to go back to myself and write all that happened to me and say that I will build a better future and not let everything go to waste. And that is how I was able to make it.
Well, thank you for sharing something about yourself and the journey of how to pick up yourself. Can you share with us the highlight of writing this book?
Okay, so the highlight was the fact that I was sharing my experience, and then especially what happened when I had my children. The excitement and the experience that I went through. I felt that people go through a lot of childbirth, and it's a mystery. And I remember everything that the doctor did for me. And what she told me is like, push, push. I said, how do I push? And she said, push like you're doing caca. And I was like, oh, so when I did that, the children came out. So I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's cool, because when you said push, and I thought I was pushing, but, and they said, like, you doing that? And then they came out. So I was like, oh, wow, this is something that somebody should hear about. So that is my main highlight.
Oh, thank you for sharing that amazing experience. Can you tell us about your first published book and what was the journey like?
Um, my first book was entitled Life Lessons, and and I published it in like 2009. But I had so many errors and so many mistakes, and I was like, it was my first book, I was new. So I decided to take it off the shelf and then to continue working on it, you know, and until 2013. And then it made a hit, and then I, I let it go again. And then I received a call from Stratton Press to help me rewrite the book. And I said, why not? And that's what I did.
Great. Now, which of those books were the most enjoyable to write?
Memoir memes, because everything was fresh in my mind. And I love to write, so everything comes out fresh like that. It comes out like everything is like a video in my mind. My experience, what I went through, what others said, I mean, like traveling, national service, childbirth, what my husband did, or traveling to Japan and seeing Japanese culture and everything. That was so fresh. And I thought I will put it in a book. And yeah, I put it in a book.
Well, we're glad that you put it in the book. We can't wait to really read all of the pages on memoir memes. What inspired you to start writing?
That what inspired me was the fact that I was always doing journals and diaries. And in school, my professors, they taught me to write an outcome or an account of myself at the end of the day. Is just write whatever comes to your mind. Just write it down. And even now, as I work, I still do it sometimes. Like, I don't want it all in my mind and it's all clogged up. Just put it on paper, put it on paper. And sometimes I go back reading these things that I write. I was like, did I write that? And now I remember what I wrote. I could always refer to the stuff that I wrote, and it gives me answers to things that I've forgotten in the past. Um, and I also was inspired by the fact that the professors sometimes they give us projects to do, and I always wanted to write about my life experience because it's more hands on deck and it's more like I'm familiar with myself and my experience and the things that are close to me. So I can easily write about it. I can easily express myself. I like challenges, but I feel like I want to have good grades. And to have good grades, you should know what you're talking about. You should have that experience and express yourself and be more meaningful, for people to get it. And that is what I did.
And how long have you been doing this? Like, how long have you been writing?
I started journals and diaries like 14, 16. I think when I was 16 years old, and then when I started college, like when I was 25 or 24, 25 years old, and went to college. I continued with journals, and then I was always keeping or compiling every project I did in school. And that was the time that computers, like 1995, that was the time that computers came out. So I bought this word processor and everything I imputed into computer and I saved some on flash drive. So everything was recorded. So it wasn't easy for me, it wasn't difficult for me to say that I'm bringing everything together or I'm pulling out the information, you know. And but for my book, I started 15 years ago, like 2009, I started writing. And then when I got to do my PhD with the dissertation, which is a research, people were like, we will want to read it, you know. And it's already published in my book, in my school publisher, but my private publisher, Stratton Press, is also publishing it. And it's on my webpage and it's coming out soon.
Thank you for sharing that. Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yes, yes, yes. Because I don't know. I think I'm gifted, you know. It comes like that. It flows like that. And in school, I loved literature. I love Santa, you know, literary meanings, alliteration, synonyms, you know, like my mom would say, what is the meaning of this? Why don't you look it up in the dictionary? Find it in the dictionary. So I love to play with words. I love grammar. I love to play, you know, and it flows like that. It comes, and I love to do research, you know. Then I could sit on computer all day just writing. The dissertation, at a point, I sat down for like 15 hours just working on the dissertation. So it's a gift. It's a gift that I have.
Thank you. How do you handle literary criticism?
Sometimes I'm like, eh. I don't want you to change my words, or I don't want you to change the idea, you know. But if it's a professor or my coach, I'm like, maybe you should explain to me what you really want me to do. You know, I'll refer to a friend to say, what is the professor trying to say? You know, and then I thought, okay, then maybe I should change it this way or that way to make it look better. Because sometimes I feel offended when you know, I'm writing it just as it is, and you telling me to change it. It's like alteration. You altering the idea or the real purpose. So I try to come to a compromise with the critic and then myself to say how best, so that I don't deviate or I don't shift from the purpose, but be on track at the same time, accept critics criticism or correction, you know. So I try to blend both. But in school, it was tough because sometimes it's like you know what you're writing, but the professor or the critic sometimes may be higher than you and see through certain things that you cannot see through. So I also accept that as a fact, and I take that into consideration.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you take things into consideration. All criticism, it's meant for us to improve and
Yeah,
to perfect our craft.
yeah.
What advice would you give a new writer, someone just starting out?
I would say that start doing journals, start doing diaries, sit down sometimes and write down things that comes to your mind, you know, experience an idea, a thought, you know, write it down. You can type it on computer. These days there are phones that you can speak to and it will record whatever you're doing, you know, and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep saving it. There may come a time that you will need it, you will refer to it, and then read other people's books. And then I would say that there are resources around that you can use. When I wrote Memoir memes, I didn't, my computer was messed up and I went to the library with a flash drive. Whilst I'm typing and doing everything, it was being recorded. It was being put on a flash drive, until the time that I bought my computer at home and I started saving it on computer. So use the resources available. Some people will even go to uh, they'll join book clubs. Some people would go to writing classes. You start from somewhere and you don't stop. You continue. Sometimes there may be lapses. It's okay. When the lapses are over, you get back on track and you move on.
Thank you for sharing that. Where can readers purchase your books?
On Amazon.com, Angus and Robinson and Booktopia is on Australian bookstores. And then, yeah, it used to be at other places, but you could find me online too. When you go to Amazon.com, you just put Dr. Henrietta Abbey, and the book will automatically come out.
All right. And if they wanted to read more about you and your books before buying it, where can they go?
To my webpage, that is https:// www.henriettaabbey.com, and they'll be able to get to my webpage. It tells about myself and my credentials. It tells about the books coming up. It tells about reviews. If you want to make a remark or critique or rating or anything, it talks about everything and you can help yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Abbey. And lastly, how's your experience working with Bookmark Alliance?
I think they are wonderful people. Ever since I got in touch with Jay Wilson and the whole crew, they've been very nice and very special, and Jay is always calling me, advising me, coaching me, being nice to me. And as he offered, Zai, you also offered to help publish my books, and I felt that this is great. And I will encourage you to keep up the good work. I really appreciate all that you've done for me and you're doing for me. And God bless you very much.